And good day, everyone. Richard Cobberthwaite for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us as we get ever closer to Vermont Town Meeting Day coming up on Tuesday, March 2nd. And I think it's probably fair to say there's no place in Vermont perhaps more active than Swanton in terms of contested races. On the 5-member Swanton Selectboard, 4 contested races, count them 4. And I've done 3 shows earlier, and this is my last show with candidates for a 1-year term. The incumbent, Select Board member Ed White Sr. Ed, good to have you. Good to see you.
Good morning.
And Michelle Nordberg, running also for that 1-year term. And again, I appreciate you folks coming in. I guess, Ed, I guess let's start with why would you like to stay in the board? Ed, and give us a little background on yourself.
Well, Richard, as I'm sure you remember, I ran 2 years ago against Karen, and it was a tight race.
It's been very tight, right?
If I remember right, there was a 13-vote difference.
Oh.
I had several people reach out to me and wanted me to get a recount. That's just not how I operate. I can remember getting a phone call saying that I had lost from Dick Thompson, and I think to this day, Dick felt worse about it than I did, and I immediately picked up the phone and I called Karen and I congratulated her. And
so you didn't ask for a recount?
No, I did not.
No recount.
I'm a big believer, and the same thing stands for with the race against Michelle. I believe in the voters speaking, and if at the end of the election, March 2nd, Michelle wins, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to call her and congratulate her and step back and wish her the best of luck. And as you know, I like to think that I bring to the table the fact that I have been in Swanton for 18 years, and I didn't get involved while I was in business because of the simple reason I've seen how that plays out, and it's hard in our small community to be a businessman and be involved in politics. So I always made it a point that I stepped back, but in the back of my mind, it was always something that I wanted to explore once I retired, and I could give my 100% effort to the cause. And like I said, the people that know me, I've been an improviser since day one. Back in the days as a kid, I used to deliver the St. Albans Messenger. I used to sell the St. Albans Leader. I used to shine shoes. And everybody said, this kid's going to be in business. And, I'm sure you remember back, Richard, when I first come back from Vietnam, I had White's Taxi Service for 3 years. And then I had Ed's Diner on South Main Street for 3.5 years. And then I went into the car business, which was a 42-year commitment. So with that being said, I maintain that, and especially in today's world, with things being the way they are, I like to say that speaks for itself. 42 years in business, and that doesn't take an effect my diner and my taxi business. You got to be doing something right, and you got to be watching your dollars. And so, with that being said, that's where we are today.
Very good. Michelle, tell us about yourself. Give us a little background, and how did you decide to jump into this race?
Well, thank you, Richard. My name is Michelle Nordberg. I recognize that I'm an unknown in most of Swanton, at least to our voters. So thank you for giving me an opportunity to introduce myself. Sure. 6 years ago, my husband and I decided to make Swanton our forever home. We're basically drawn here by Lake Champlain, the Missisquoi River. I mean, we have so many assets here besides the breathtaking sunsets, trails that we have. For a small town, there's been a lot to learn and understand about what's important to Swanton. I have struggled to try and understand a lot of its long and diverse heritage, how it operates governmentally. I owe a lot of that education to Northwest Access as well. Heather Bukowski on her Spotlight of Swanton video, so I've learned a lot. I've been engaged. Now that I'm settled here, I'd like to just be able to impart some of my knowledge and background. It's just is very important for me to be able to work forward and put my knowledge and skills to use. I believe the select board is the very place that I can actually be a champion of my background, which is compliance, effective process, communications, information sharing, and risk mitigation, which I think we all need. My credentials, background-wise, I have an undereducation in business and law enforcement, a master's in forensic accounting and regulatory compliance and ethics, and I have several certifications in audit methodology, financial management, and revenue management. So I think that that's very helpful professionally. I work currently as an auditor for the UVM Health Access. I'm an independent consultant also in healthcare. I've worked as a bank accountant focusing in investments and loans, a fraud investigator, assistant controller. So I have a background that I think could really be put to use. I started volunteering probably in my teens, right through until my early 30s, and then I focused a lot more on my marriage and career. And now that I'm here, Swanton itself just is engaging me. So I feel the call to just speak up. It's not necessarily any one thing. It's just trying to understand, and I think that just requires engagement. So I'm here to put forth, my hand in this, and if it's helpful, great. If it's not, I'll still be here, right? And Ed, he supported me in the fall when we both stepped forward for the open seat. He's a very gracious, generous man. Actually, the very first business I ever engaged was actually his car dealership and mechanic to take care of our stuff. So I was actually very sad to have him close because it was the only thing that I had actually finally cemented here. But I wish him well in his retirement with his lovely wife, children, and 16 grandchildren, I just learned, which is pretty amazing. So you can't go wrong as far as the voters go.
Nice words. Campaigning, this campaign's been, I can only assume, unlike any that any candidates have done. I mean, obviously, no door to door. Have you been able to do some campaigning? But it's certainly a tough election.
No, I haven't done very much campaigning. So if nothing else, for me, this is an opportunity just to put forth my name, to say, this is who I am. I'm here for the next several decades. So if people don't know me and don't vote for me, I don't think that that's necessarily a vote against me,
Sure.
but just to be able to put my name forward and just say, I'm here if you ever need me. So I give the best to those who are campaigning strong and campaigning hard.
Right. Ed, I noted I've seen your postcard running as a team with James Gilmet, the select board chair.
Yes, and, I haven't made it a secret by any means to the voters and the taxpayers in Swanton that I 100% support James. Having the experience, I've known James for years, but having the experience of working with him side by side for the last 4 months, I've learned that him and I have a lot of the same concerns, and at the end of the day, I can honestly say that I firmly believe that his position on the board is 100% loyal to the taxpayers of Swanton. I have to say, without speaking out of term, my personal feelings, Richard, is I'm very disappointed in Heather giving up her seat and running against James, because to me that sends a wrong signal, because as select board members, we're supposed to, we may agree to disagree, but we're all on the same team. And,
But let's just concentrate on, again, we just have about 20 minutes. I hear you,
Right.
but let's just concentrate on your, any biggest issue facing Swanton? Is there one issue that you think stands out as you
Well,
hope to stay on the board?
Everybody that you talk with, Richard, is, now, say that again, on the board?
As you hope to, keep,
No, I believe that presently, I feel we have a great board. The only thing is lack of experience, including myself.
it's certainly been a significant change over.
Nicole is new, but does a wonderful job in understanding what's going on. I'm new, and, James and Mark are the two senior people on the board. And of course, Mark isn't up for reelection. He's still going to be there. But James has the most experience, and boy, do we need that. I mean, we can always fall back on, like I had a conversation with Joel this morning through email. It's nice that you can reach out to these people that were previously on the board for a helping hand. I've reached out to Dick Thompson on several occasions,
Any huge issue there, Michelle, as you see it? Is there kind of one, if you're elected to the select board, any particular kind of dominant issue you'd like to concentrate on, or facing Swanton? Anything come right to mind?
Oh, good question. So, yes, I think so. But mine is, my view is a bit more broad in not just any one issue, but a holistic approach. Is that I feel that our leadership must deal with like the daily priorities and urgent matters before them, as the select board does. However, I feel in my time at business and reporting to leadership boards and board of trustees in my career, most effective leaders do so when they have a very clearly defined and revisited vision and measurable goals and a strategic approach to their decision-making that guides their actions. And also with that, ensuring transparency in those communications that have to happen. So I would encourage, what I didn't convey is that I'm also a member of the Swanton Enhancement Project. I'm a member of the Economic Development Committee. We're starting a communications committee. I'm treasurer of the Swanton Arts Council, and newly I'm one of 5 founders for the Swanton Public Art Network. And so I'm familiar with all of these community groups, and they're a great group of visionaries, but visionary can go only so far. We have ideas, we have grants, we don't have enough doers. To borrow the language of Sean Cheney on the Swanton Selectboard last night, we don't have enough doers, or at least the money to impart into our community like investors to make some of these ideas happen. We can't be flooded with just ideas. We have to be able to figure out how to put them together so that the select board can take steps towards reaching that goal. Otherwise, we're going to end up somewhere Swanton doesn't want to be.
All right. Just ask you folks to be as concise as you can with about 16 minutes left. You mentioned some art. It makes me think of the art wall. Do you think we could have a art wall coming back without the considerable controversy that it generated last time around?
I do think that's possible, and I believe that the government official boards of the village and the town also believe it is possible. I know that there's so much hurt and pain from the last year, but what these 5 community members, including myself, have done is we've come together to try and develop really comprehensive guidelines that also include an artist arrangement or agreement, if you will, and also a grievance protocol so that we can intervene with social unrest and community concerns before they ever reach the unnecessary level that they did, that kind of forced action that was undesirable.
Yeah. Ed, can we have, would you like to see the art wall come back, sans all the controversy?
In fact, we had them as guests our not last night's meeting, but the meeting before, and they made a presentation to us, and I can say that the whole board is in favor of it. They were, as my memory serves me, Michelle, they're going to get back to us with some information.
Yes, we are.
And we're looking at it favorably.
Yeah. I should note, we're taping this show on Wednesday, February 17th. And again, mentioned a select board meeting last night. Pretty big issue in Swanton, the prospective sale of the former town garage site. And then you're still looking, that's still kind of in the works, but a tentative sale?
Well, the thing of it is last night what we did was, we, by Zoom, we've had folks checking in, and there is some concerned citizens, and we as a board wanted them to know that it isn't cut and dry, that we are willing to listen to their concerns. And with that being said, Richard, what's in the works now after last night's meeting is we're going to have a public meeting slated in 30 days. It'll be warned so that we can get a bigger input, because I think we had, Michelle, between 15 and 20 people on last night?
You had 30.
30 people. And our concern is, and I may have worded things wrong when I was addressing the people that were on Zoom, and I apologized last night and I apologize today on public television. That wasn't my what I want to do is I want to, because we are representing Swanton voters, I want to hear from the rest of the vote. I mean, we have 4,100 registered voters in Swanton. We heard from 30 people last night. And, I look at that, Richard, as the same as I do with Michelle being my opponent. At the end of that day, if we have the majority of Swanton voters saying we need to retain that 4th Street property, I'm all in. If we have the majority of the voters that say this is the time, then that's where I have to agree, because that is your given position on a select board. You have to be looking at the best interest of your taxpayers.
Okay. Michelle, thoughts on the former town garage site?
Holy cow, I don't know if I can be as succinct given our time delay. I could talk for a while, but.
Yeah, please try to be.
Of course,
succinct.
Richard, thank you. So the short answer, so I was reached out on social media. I thank you for social media. And they asked me a question, and I haven't answered, and I will answer now publicly. The answer is whether or not I believe that the voters should vote on this particular issue that's before the select board now. The short answer is yes. It's a weighted answer, of course, and I could go into that, and maybe I will on the March 16th public hearing. The reason I say yes is because there is now public outcry and energy and debate, and that should be listened to. And that is what the select board is currently doing. They've done everything right. They put out something out to vote, although I have now seen what that article was. That was 9 years ago. I was not here, admittedly, so I'm catching up. But that article was just a general statement about selling properties of the town in order to fund and pay back a bond. Now, 9 years later, we're talking about a specific property. Select Board entertained a purchase offer in executive session. That also has its own separate discussion at some point. I think it's a matter of education on both sides. And they also, when they declared what their binding vote would be, they responded and listened to the voters. They put it on the agenda for last night's meeting. They've listened to us. They've also voted for another public hearing. We don't know if that will move to public vote. My concern about the small quantity of members is some might reference. The 30 attendees, they also are community leaders in many public forums. So they represent many, and if we need to put those names to lists in order to identify representation, we certainly can do that. Otherwise, we'd have to put it to voters for folks like Ed to feel comfortable that they're doing what the voters want us to do. So, yeah.
Health of downtown and just about any community gets attention. I think on one of the earlier interviews I did, I think there was a suggestion from one of the candidates that the Ace Hardware store, kind of a big thing for downtown, wasn't doing all that well. But just for what it's worth, I talked to Gordon Winters just a couple days ago, and Gordon reports that the store is actually ahead of projections and is very happy with how it's going. Of course, for anybody in business with the pandemic, a very tough time, but he said the store is doing well and hopes to have a belated grand opening at some point, possibly around Memorial Day. But anyway, but downtown, you saw that as a good initiative, Ed, and any other, I know a lot of folks in Swanton would probably kill for another restaurant or two, but
Yeah, that's, we definitely need more businesses in Swanton. And I personally take my hat off to Gordon Winter for what he's done for the community. And I know his interest is at heart is definitely for Swanton. I think the projection, and I've heard a comment of people say, gee, I drive by there and there's no cars there. But I at the same point have driven by there and seen 10, 12 cars in that yard. So it is, we are faced with this, with rough times. But I believe if he told you that he's beyond his predictions of what the business is going to believe, I don't think he would mislead us in any way, shape, or manner.
Yeah, for sure. Health of Swanton, Michelle, kind of a broad question, but would you like to ideally see some more businesses come to town, or?
I think no one in the community actually would dispute that. I mean, we're desperate for more things to do and more places to convene when that becomes feasible again.
Yeah.
Whether it's coffee shop, restaurant, community center, so many ideas outside of our recreational focus that we have. I congratulate the Winters for successful business, but more than that, I just think we can dispute whether or not what kind of business we need, but I still congratulate and thank folks like the Winters and Tyler Stanislaus who's put a bid on the 4th Street property for investors who actually want to put money forward and invest into Swanton, whatever that happens to be. Hopefully, again, I would love it to align with our Swanton plan and our vision, our strategic vision, if it's fully developed.
Right.
But you can't dispute that we're desperate for them. It's just difficult business, and Ed, as a business owner, he knows how difficult business
Sure.
can be. Restaurant business is fundamentally challenging.
Yeah, one thing Swanton doesn't lack, perhaps unfortunately, truck traffic. Have any hope that things will, I don't know, ever change in the foreseeable future on the just incredible truck traffic that rolls through Swanton every day?
Foreseeable future, yes. I think we all know that the Swanton scoping study for the downtown has been presented. Some interesting ideas. I learned that we have somewhere between, somewhere around 2,000, 2,500 truck traffic every day. I didn't realize that it was so high, but I certainly know its presence. I think that we need to do something that can embrace them because they're going to continue to travel through our community. So we need to figure out a way to have them stop. And if that means, engaging in a project such as something like that's in the Berlin area that has a truck stop that they actually can go take showers and, stop and spend money or time here, then it will slow the flow. It will also keep them here and achieve some value for them using our space and our roads, but I do think it's feasible.
Ed, any reason to think anything changes on the truck traffic front anytime
as
soon?
we know, Richard, this has been something that's been on the burner for 6, 7 years.
Yeah.
And I think, what we're hearing, and I stress what we're hearing is when talking with transportation, is the COVID has slowed things down. But as Michelle said, I think in moving forward, something positive is going to happen. And I agree that we need something to not only bring these truckers through town, but something to welcome them here. And that's just something that we've got to work on and moving forward.
Interesting. Swanton Village, Swanton Town relations. Ed, are they where they should be now?
Well, from my perspective, and there again, bearing in mind that I've only been on the select board for 4 months, I haven't encountered any problems whatsoever.
Yeah.
It seems like we have a very good working relationship. We're able to help them if we've got something they need, and vice versa. I haven't seen any conflicts, Richard.
Yeah. Michelle, thoughts on Swanton Village, Swanton Town Village relations?
Well, I'm not in the mix of those relations currently. However, I have no reason to doubt that they don't have a rhythm that works for them right now. I do suggest that every relationship has opportunity for improvement. I also, what it reminds me of is the conversation that I've heard a lot of since I moved here and researched extensively since I moved here, is why we need the two separate governments in the first place. And so I've been trying to untangle that mystery and understand quite a lot. So I have quite a background in understanding the merger back conversation here and across Vermont in multiple other communities.
Anybody ask you about a merger? Do you run into people who say, why are there two Swantons? Why not merge the village and town?
I do hear that, and it's become a conversation. The library has received a recent grant, and they developed this group called Inform Swanton, and in that is trying to convey some of this information that is challenging to understand, just as a local citizen, how to achieve something. Is it a town matter? Is it a village matter? And bringing this up. Thanks to that group, I was able to actually obtain a copy of the 300-page merger study that was completed in around 2002 and presented in 2003. So I've been able to become a little bit more informed because people have this conversation with me. Maybe it's just because they know that it's of interest to me. I haven't formulated a position either way, although I am quite encouraged by Waterbury's approach and Essex's approach to this. So I think we have a lot to consider if we were to revisit this, and I would encourage us to.
Yeah, of course, Essex has yet another vote on the issue coming up on town meeting day. Edward, anybody talk to you about a merger? Do you think that's worth looking into perhaps again or not?
Well, I can answer that. I've had that conversation with a handful of people, and not actually the answer that I would like to hear, but I'm hearing it's never going to happen.
Anyway, we'll move on. Sidewalk from a big issue. Why this wasn't constructed at the time MVU started, in 1970? But some initiative now, some movement on possibly a sidewalk rec path from MVU to the village limits?
And and I'm in favor of that. There again, that issue there, in my opinion, Richard, comes down to there are certain taxpayers that think that money could be better spent in a different area. I personally am in favor of it.
Yeah. Michelle?
I support the decision that's been made. We've already moved forward with
Basically
it.
to look into, to study it at least?
I have studied it. One thing that I do understand is that it somehow actually relates to the topic of merging and shared resources, is the conversation of who's going to be responsible for these sidewalks, and do we need additional equipment in order to take care of this particular, or is it additional staffing? So I think it just represents an example that begs the question about coordination and duplicated resources.
Yeah.
So I would just hope that our officials are thinking about that and not spending unnecessary monies, but considering the safety of our pedestrians.
Right. Yeah, unfortunately, I feel like we could have taken another half hour down to about a last minute. Very quickly, at anything I haven't asked you about, you want to quickly touch on?
No, I think we're all set.
Yeah.
I do have one question to ask of my candidate.
Yeah, quickly, we're down to 1 minute.
Yeah, Michelle, as you made notice on public TV, when we were vying for the Joel seat, I supported you, and I even made the comment to the board that if I was on the board, you would have been my choice. I can recall after that, you and I had a discussion on a personal level, and I asked you if you were going to seek re-election, and your answer was no. What changed your mind?
Oh, thank you.
And very good, down to 30 seconds, Michelle, sorry.
It was just an appeal from other people, and it went in as of the last day because I just felt that there was a lot of opposition and people stepping forward, which made me very proud. So thank you very much. You're right.
On that note, we got on that thing. Thanks very much to our two candidates for a one-year seat on the Swanton Selectboard, Michelle Nordberg. Michelle, thanks for coming in. Ed White Sr., the incumbent. Thanks a lot again. Boy, if you're a Swanton voter, pay attention to this. 4 contested seats coming up on town meeting day. I'm Richard Cobrathwaite for Northwest Access TV. See ya.